Hey everybody, how you doing? Alexx Calise here. Thank you so much for tuning into the pod. Today we have a really special guest. She is a fan-freaking-tastic vocalist and vocal coach and a personal friend of mine. Welcome, the gorgeous Darci Monet.
Thank you.
Okay, great. I told you we're going to just sing the entire interview.
It's like the Buffy the musical episode. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to sing all the way through it.
That's how I hoped we would do it. So, Darci, you're a fantastic vocalist, and it was really cool because we know each other for a little while now, but I always find it so fascinating, especially doing this with friends, because, you know, when you send me your information, we don't really talk about these types of things in you know, the settings that we normally see each other in. I was just so blown away by your credits. I had no idea that you did half of the stuff that you do.
Well, name droppers are gross.
You know? You said that, but
yes. And I'm like, in a social situation where you're just hanging out with your friends, it's like, there's literally no reason for me to bring any of that up unless somebody specifically asks me, you know? So it's not like I'm sitting there going, hey, did you know I sang backup for Steve Winwood? Just checking, you know? I'm like, not going to do that.
wow.
And it's older, the beginning of my career, the big names were in the beginning of my career when I was young and spry.
You're still young and spry. Get out of here.
I don't feel like it this morning, girl. I'll tell you what, but that's okay.
It's this weather.
Seriously, it just makes you want this June gloom. I love it, though.
I feel like I'm sweating on a porch in Georgia, especially with these lights.
Yes, true. Right now, for sure.
Yeah, but tell us a little bit about, you know, maybe even though those fledgling or early stages of your career, because you worked with the Judge, you worked with Steve Winwood, and you did backup vocals. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, tell us a little bit about your journey, especially initially and then as time went on.
Well, you know, I grew up in upstate New York, but I went to college in Nashville, Tennessee at Belmont University, which is it's definitely probably the music university, except maybe for Vanderbilt in the southern region. Pretty much every country album you pick up, pretty much everybody playing on it went to Belmont, you know, all that kind of stuff. So,
Wow.
you know, me and my friends came up doing that, and then we were just trying to make our way. I had my own band, and I was singing in other bands too, and I was a member of the Christ Church choir, which at the time was about 3,000 person church, and the choir was about 250 people. And I was one of two wicked high sopranos. You can't tell by my voice today, but I used to have high notes. And so whenever if there was an artist that needed a choir, they called us. But they would only take 12 of us. And then we would just dub everything. And I was lucky enough to be one of the 12 because I had the super high notes, and they always needed somebody who could do that. And so that's kind of where I started singing as far as my career went. I've been technically professional since I was 15, but my career started there. And I learned everything I needed to know about studio singing from the Christ Church choir with those opportunities.
What are some of the things that you had learned from them? Like, was it mic technique?
Just how to behave in a studio. You know what I mean? How to, you know, you don't waste time. And I also learned a lot of that from school too. They were like, look, you're one and done. When they call you, if you can't get it done in 2 takes, you don't get called back. And so you had to really be on your game. And there was none of this, I think I got a better one, you know?
Right,
And when the producer says, that's perfect, even if you didn't feel like it was perfect for you, you move on. If they're happy, we move on, you know? Time is money. So things like that, and just how to be in front of a microphone like this, you know, not to be...
we already had this conversation, and I'm like, wait a second. If there's anyone that I don't need to explain this to, it is Darci. And
that is true.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, girl, I have sung on some really craptastic sound systems, and like, I think my sense of pitch was so good. Especially in the early days, people were like, man, you're just so right on. I don't think I have to pitch bend this at all. I was like, that's because I grew up singing in churches with no sound systems. My sound system was a boom box that was sitting next to me for the kids that plays cassette tapes. And it'd sit next to me. And so all the sound would be going out forward. And I'd be lucky if I could hear it at all.
Right.
So I just learned where to listen to the intro, and there's my key. And then everything from there was just, I just had to make it work.
So you have perfect pitch or
No.
relative pitch?
I have relative pitch.
Okay.
But people don't, I don't know if you understand. A lot of people go, oh, he's got perfect pitch. No, perfect pitch is literally if I hit a note on the piano and you're not looking at it, you can tell me that's a G.
Right.
And that's a very rare phenomenon.
Yeah, I think Rick Beato. Could you know Rick Beato?
No.
A fantastic YouTuber and producer.
Oh, yeah?
He has the ability to do that, but so few, like you said.
Yeah, I think Charlie Puth does too. I think I heard.
Oh, that guy is insanely talented.
Yes. So anyway, I just have really well developed relative pitch. I just try not to sing out of tune. You know? Yeah, they just taught me how to behave myself in a studio and how to, you know, get out of the way a little bit if I'm too loud, because, you know, those high notes cut through everything. So I'd be like, all right, they'd be like, okay, Darci, on this take, we need you to go up on the high one. I wouldn't do the high one all the time. So they only need like one or two. If they're doing 5 overdubs, they'd only need my high note on 1 or 2 takes. And then I'd usually step back away from the microphone and let everybody else come in. So it just kind of, you know, so just things like that I geek out on and think is
totally.
Cool. But that choir also afforded me many opportunities to sing. That's how I got to sing with the Judds and Dolly Parton and stuff like those people. There's a bunch of other, Marie Osmond. No, that was school. That was college.
When you're saying singing with them, was it as a backup singer?
Backup. We did some, well, with Dolly, and the Judds, we did studio sessions. So like the little group of 12 I was telling you about got to sing on Love Can Build a Bridge and Dolly's He's Alive. I don't know if you remember that, but back in the early 90s, she released a song that was a contemporary Christian hit by a Christian folk artist, and it tells the story of Jesus' resurrection for the eyes of Peter.
Okay.
And the end is just, I don't care if you are the staunchest atheist on the planet. I dare anybody to listen to this song and not get, like, I get goosebumps just thinking about how the end of the song goes, which is where the choir shows up. And she sang it on the CMAs. So not only did we get to record that, but then I got to be part of the whole choir got to come and perform it on the CMAs with her. Wow. And we got to sing with the Judds on, you know, in their Nashville show on their tour, you know, that kind of thing.
Wow.
So there were times where we could all, you know, do that. But yeah, that was an amazing experience. I like to say that singing with Dolly was 7 of my 15 minutes of fame.
Wow.
And then singing with Steve Winwood was another 7, and I've got like 1 minute left. Reserving for somebody. I don't know who.
No, you've got many minutes left.
Let's hope so, you know.
Well, was Dolly as wonderful in person as she appears to be? Okay.
And the thing is, too, what a lot of people don't realize is when you're coming in to sing on the recordings, they're almost never there unless they're also producing. But Dolly doesn't produce her own stuff, so she wasn't there. But since I was able to sing with her a couple times in person, she is, what you see is what you get. She's exactly like you've seen her on television and stuff like that. She is just a really sweet and the tiniest little thing.
That does not surprise me. She looks tiny on even just TV.
And even with 5-inch heels and all her hair,
oh my God,
she was maybe 2 inches taller than me, and I'm only 5'2".
Wow.
So yeah, she's a very tiny, like her boobs aren't even as big in person as they look on the screen because she is that little, the rest of her. It's just so out of proportion with the rest of her.
Right.
You know, but yeah, she's sweet, really sweet lady.
You're also a vocal coach too.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the things that you notice when people come to you? Some of the challenges or some of the problems that you see people come to you with? Is it breathing, like breath control? Is it pitch? Like what are some of the things that people seem to have problems with?
Honestly, the biggest problem is usually delusions of grandeur. Where, God bless, you know, the era of American Idol and The Voice and all that stuff, especially American Idol in the early days, made a lot of people who loved to sing think they could sing for a living.
Right.
And so early on when I started coaching, I got a lot of those where, fortunately, like I'm not in the business of crushing spirits, right? I don't believe in it at all. And I would worry, I was like, how am I going to explain to this person that they just don't have what it takes to do this for a living. But I never have had to do that because they soon figure out, because I give them the same training as I give my ones who can be professional. You know, I don't dumb it down for anybody. And I have found that once they realize how much work it's going to be for them to sound good or for it to be easy, because, you know, all these coaches, we're trying to get people in the door, you know, so we can make a living, but they'll give their advertisements are full of false promises. You know, it's like, I can change your voice in one lesson. It's like, no, you can't. You know, that's not how it works. And so I think they see these advertisements and they see how it looks so easy for the kids on Idol being plucked out of obscurity. And they just have no idea how much work it takes to be a great singer. And so a lot of times I find myself explaining, well, this is an investment in yourself, time, effort, money. It's a commitment. You have to be married to your voice. You have to be intimately connected with your voice if you want to get great, you know? So sometimes it's that. A lot of times, and I'll be honest, I don't love taking on people with pitch issues because if there's a weakness in my instruction talents, it's dealing with that because I've never had a pitch problem and I don't understand how you can't hear.
Yes.
And that's fixable. And there are some teachers out there who love, like, that's their thing. They want to dig in on that and I don't. My forte is give me somebody who's got a modicum of talent and I can help improve them. I'm a diamond shiner, you know? I don't enjoy my job much when I have to go chiseling.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine, at least for myself, that would be incredibly frustrating.
It can be for sure. And it's frustrating for them too.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be a jerk, let's use that word.
Okay.
Or sound like I'm a jerk or an elitist or anything. But it's, I've been doing this long enough to know if I've got somebody who can improve to the level that they want to. And when I know that they can't, it's frustrating for them too, because I feel like I can't help them because I'm like, the tricks that I know that help me with certain things may not work for them because they just don't have the motor skills, you know?
I understand.
And that's something you're born with. The motor skills to do it or not, that can't be fixed.
Well, that was going to be like my next question. Like, can anyone sing or at least improve enough to be like a passable singer, or is it a natural thing?
Anyone who takes voice lessons, as long as they practice and, you know, are prepared and commit to it, can improve. Can anybody get to a point where they're even good? Maybe. Can you get great? Maybe. Excuse me. There are so many factors involved with that. You know, like your natural talent or not. Your literal physicality, like I said, the motor skills. And every singer, even the best singers in the world, have their limits. You know what I mean? Where they're like, okay, I'm really good, but I can't do that. You know, like I can say, yeah, I'm a really great singer, but I don't do Celine Dion because I can't.
There are very few people that, I mean, she is a freak of nature.
Seriously.
Her or like, you know, I don't like when she does like all of the whoa, like, but Christina Aguilera, she can sing anything.
Yes, yes.
But they're freaks. They're, you know what I'm saying? Like that happens so.
God likes them best.
Yes.
So I like to say the rest of us have to work at it, you know?
Right.
But so yeah, there's so many factors involved. And there are some people who, like one of my earliest students, her name is Sarah Coda. Her band is called Silent Rival. Check them out. She came to me with the breathiest little voice, good pitch, piano player, great songwriter. And I honestly didn't know. And I was pretty new to things too. And I was like, I don't know if she's got it. But that girl dug in. She was with me for like 5 years. And now she can sing anything. She can wail up in the stratosphere. She's got, you know, she's got a belt. She's got a chest voice. She's got all the things. And is a great songwriter. And I wouldn't have known actually, but she was determined.
Yes.
So you also have to have a person who's like, come hell or high water, I'm going to make my goal. I'm going to reach my goal. And not everybody has that chutzpah, you know?
Totally. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, even myself as a vocalist, I always had a strong falsetto, and the same with my father. And he still sings, like, he has beautiful falsetto, like very breathy, nice falsetto. But I had a lot of issues, especially when I was younger, with volume. And now I can, you've heard me and my band, like I can get
Girl,
loud
you
as hell.
are, what the hell?
Well, same
Literally,
with you.
first time I heard, I was like, are you kidding? Are you kidding? Are you kidding?
No,
Yeah, you're a
but
badass.
thank you so much. But I was one of those people that, I really put in the work, and I think, like you're saying, like you work with diamonds, you shine diamonds. So I put in the work, and I was able to eventually get to that point where I was, I had the confidence, and then I had the volume, because everyone was always complaining to me, and it would be so frustrating. They'd be like, I can't hear you. The mic wasn't loud enough, but really it was my a combination of things, like, not getting enough air, not having the right mic control, all of that different stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think as long as you really, really, like you said, dig in and work at it, you can get there. And if you're already naturally good, I mean, you can become incredible as long as you put in the
Those
work.
people are interesting too, though, a lot of times, because people have natural talent. Well, we all kind of come up trying to mimic our favorite singers, right? And so a lot of times I'll get somebody who you can really hear who their influences were, and then we have to peel back an onion.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where's your voice? Or I have people who come in and they've always sung on microphones, electronic. They've had some kind of, bells and whistles to amplify them. And I teach old school. I teach the way I learned. It's me, my piano, and a room. Like, I don't put people on microphones, unless we get to a point where, they've got a show and they want to work the mic technique. Then I teach them the mic technique. But otherwise, I'm like, if you don't know what your voice sounds like on Electrified, then you don't know what your voice sounds like. So that muscle needs to be built. Volume comes from building the muscle, which is your vocal folds are muscles like anything else. So you just have to work them out with exercises. Singing your favorite songs and calling that practice is not practice. That's like trying to get to the Olympics before you trained for it first,
Right.
The exercises are important. And I know people, but I don't like doing that. Well, no, life isn't fair.
Yeah, you have to. It's like you said, it's a muscle. Like, I notice even if I'm not playing guitar for, say, a week or so, I'm like, oh, like when I go back to do it,
sure.
like it feels foreign to me. Have you ever had a situation where you had a vocalist that had such a distinctive voice that you were almost afraid to do some of the vocal exercises you do with, say, other students, because you don't want to change the quality of their voice or the characteristic of their voice?
Well, I'll tell you, no, because the exercises that I give people, my working theory, which was true for me. So may not be true for everybody, but my students that stick with me, it seems to work for. I believe that your chest voice, belt voice is only as good as the strength of your head voice. So all my exercises are in head voice only, your natural voice with no inflections, no stylistic choices, just your most basic voice. And we work that's how we build the muscle. We create the foundation and we strengthen, we stretch, all that. So we work through the break, ironing that out, learning how to get rid of it with the exercises when you don't want it, but not let it go altogether so that you can use it when you want to. Like when I was younger, I hated my break so much that I just went to town on it with my exercises. And for years and years and years, really only the last few years have I been able to do any kind of a hitchy yodel kind of sound because I ironed the crap out of my break. So I've learned over the years to be like, okay, now don't forget how to do this. But so I build the head voice first, your natural voice. And then when we work the material, we work the bare bones of it. This is how the song goes. This is how it sounds. This is the melody. Make sure you know what that is. And then we put the style on because that's the frosting and the sprinkles,
Okay.
So when I get somebody who has almost everybody I've worked with, I'm trying to think if I had somebody who came in with just a really interesting tone.
Yeah.
That you don't want to mess with. Like Adele, you don't want to, she's born with that. Or Oh, there's this guy I follow on TikTok and Instagram. His name is Sam Siri, but he goes by Nicotine Dolls.
Okay.
And I don't know how he does it. Actually, one of my very first TikToks when I got on there was listening to him going, I have to know, how do you do this? You've got to tell me how you do this. How is your voice not shredded? Because when he speaks, it's not the same voice he sings with. He's like if Rod Stewart and Joe Cocker had a baby or something like that.
Wow.
Great. So good, girl.
That's
You gotta
cool.
find him.
I'm looking him
amazing.
up after this.
Yes. And he's a great writer too. And I'm
Okay.
just like, he's, he's a TikTok star. But he responded to me and he was like, I've been doing it since I was 16. And he's talking with this
Wow.
perfectly clear. And I'm like, you're affecting it. And how are you doing that and not destroying your vocal cords? There are things that I don't know. I'm like,
Yeah.
I get to say I don't know sometimes. That's what my voice coach told me. He's like, you know a lot of stuff, but you don't have to know all the stuff.
What are some of the things that you would consider to be effects? Would they be falsetto?
I don't believe women have a falsetto. I believe we have our head voice. And some women have whistle tones, like the Mariah Carey thing. To me, and there are going to be teachers out there who would disagree with me on that, and that's fine because it's not that important of a disagreement. But I kind of look at it as like the range of the voice, like if from the piano, the guy's voice is from here to here, then he has his falsetto for another octave and a half, probably, which is the breathiness, which is literally just the mucosa of your vocal cords are vibrating together, and the rest of the muscles aren't working in tandem with it. And that's where that breathiness comes from. So when you have a woman with a breathy head voice, it's either she hasn't figured out how to make all those muscles work together and get a full clear sound, or she's affecting it, which sounds like a dude's falsetto, but it's just breathiness. You know what I mean?
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, and it's totally
Yeah.
building that up because I used to have so much, or use falsetto a lot, and then just over the years, just from playing a billion shows and recording and all this
Yeah.
other stuff, I use it very sparingly now, which I think it's better to use it sparingly unless that's
Yeah.
really your thing.
Unless you're Sarah McLachlan.
I was just going to say Sarah McLachlan,
Who
yes.
sounds amazing, by the
Yes,
way. I just
hers
saw
is
her
incredible.
on Kimmel, and I'm like, girl, you sound like you're 22.
Yeah.
You want your falsetto for a woman, the breathiness quality, to be something that you do use sparingly. It should be a choice,
Yes.
And like that's why I got so annoyed with Mariah Carey after a while. She's just singing breathy everything, which is not actually even healthy for your vocal cords. It's drying
you're
them
like,
out. Yeah.
like all the time.
Yeah. And it just dries them out. And when you dry out, like think about when you rub your hands together and they get warm, that's what happens. And that's how nodules happen.
Oh,
That's literally what's happening.
well, what about for say someone like Steven Tyler, who's had them a billion times? Is that just because he's singing improperly, just screaming and?
I think so. I mean, like it's hard to say when I can't sit at the piano and run somebody through exercises to listen for what I need to listen for. Probably because you listen to what he sounded like when he was very young, like on Dream On and stuff like that. It's an entirely different voice.
Oh yes.
Than he has now. And so I think he's learned, and you learn to sing with damage. Like I do now, like moving to Los Angeles has kind of destroyed my voice. Really bad sinus issues and stuff. Gave me a cough that I couldn't get rid of for years. And that's why I'm talking so low here. It's like my voice is tired and I've lost a lot of my range because of the constant coughing until I'm doing like allergy shots now and stuff like that, but I'm no soprano anymore. I probably never will be anymore. And I'm like, you start to learn to use what you have. And in a song I just released, that was my first time in the studio with my quote, broken voice and going, okay, what I normally used to do, singing very purely, very technically correct, while still feeling, because the feels have to be there. I was like, all right, I'm just going to really lean into all the wrong things my voice does now, or things that I can't count on. And I'm going to, with all my technical training, I'm going to navigate with that. You know what I mean? And I actually really dig how it came out.
Oh, great.
I'm like my low voice is really rich and ballsy. And I'm like, I've always had low notes, but the quality of them are so different now. And I'm really enjoying that. I miss my high notes because it's like a phantom limb. I start to go up there and it just stops and they're just not there. And so it's like, and the things that I give to my students to stretch their range are not working for me anymore. They still work for them, but life happens and things happen that are beyond your control. And, when you're broke and you don't have health insurance for a long time, and you can only do what you can do. So I have this voice now that's a new voice for me that I have to work with. And I know that a lot, especially these rock singers, a lot of them go on tour for the first time and they've never had a voice lesson in their life. They don't know how to take care of their voice. And then they're young and they want to party and they're sniffing things and they're drinking everything and they're not sleeping because they're screwing everybody. And it's like they're doing everything wrong. It's such here's a funny thing. Fall Out Boy years ago was like a mentor guest on American Idol. And that kid, I can't think of his name, the guy who's the lead singer there.
Patrick Stump?
Yes, thank you.
Got it.
Incredible voice. I'm just like, how is he? He sounds like he's singing so hard all the time. But they're in there with the kids, and the kids are like, tell us about tour. How do you get through tour? And da-da-da. And he's like, we do a show, and we go back to the hotel, and we go to bed. Because none of us drink, none of us do drugs, none of us stay up late. And I'm like... Part of me is like, rock and roll is dead. Yeah, right. And then the other part of me is like, good for you. Yeah. Because you'll be doing this when you're 95. Right. You know what I mean?
And he has such one of those voices that it's just it has so much character. Yes. His voice specifically.
I got to a few years ago see Green Day, them, and Weezer did the Hella Mega Tour or something like that at Dodger Stadium. And I was like, I'd seen Green Day before, who was just so
They're
much
great
fun.
live.
Love. Now, Weezer, whatever. But I was very excited to see Fall Out Boy because I'm like, I need to watch this kid sing and see what's going on. Doesn't even break a sweat. Doesn't even break a sweat. And he's hitting all these all the words. There's so many words. And I was just really impressed. I was just like, this kid knows what he's doing. If he doesn't have a vocal coach, I will eat my shoe.
Yes.
And just like... there's no way this is naturally done.
Oh, yeah. Because he's just constant, like, da 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 da, like every song. Yeah. I mean, I'm like, yeah.
It is little fluttery vibrato. Oh,
yep.
I love you. Will you marry me?
Right. Love you, Patrick. Yeah. No, he's a great songwriter on top of that. I love his songwriting. Yeah. And he writes for other people too.
Oh, cool. I did not know that.
He does. Some of these 90s bands, like especially, remember Semisonic?
Yes,
Closing Time.
Oh, yes. I love that song still.
Oh, me too. And they were phenomenal. I don't know if he ever had any other records, but they were great. Now he is going off and writing for everyone, the singer.
I love that. I would love to get more into that myself, actually. I'm a songwriter too. And I would love to just be behind the scenes. I enjoy performing, but I would rather be the backup singer. I love harmonizing. I love arranging vocals. I love writing songs. I love the process of being in the studio. It's just, I'm getting old. I don't need to be on the stage. I don't want to have to do all this all the time. And it's too much.
Yeah. You were like so bashful about like being on camera today. I'm like, you're gorgeous.
I also stayed up a little too late last night.
Oh, see,
playing with our friends.
Bad. Not practicing what you preach, lady.
And I kept trying to go home. I was like, you guys, I got to go home. I got a podcast with Alex tomorrow. And they're like, no, you don't. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's succumbing to peer pressure. So don't do that, vocalist.
Don't do that. Don't do it.
Yeah, do as I say, not as I do.
I say that to at least once a week. I say that to at least one student.
Oh,
just do what I'm telling you to do and leave me alone.
Right. Well, we were talking about rock singers like Patrick Stump or Billy Joe Armstrong. What are some vocal exercises that rock singers can do versus, say, pop singers? Because it's a totally different ballgame. And then you have metal singers even. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't have separate exercises.
Okay.
As far as warm-up / workout goes. Because I come from the let's build your head voice up, because when you're sick, you better have a strong head voice to fall back on, because otherwise then you're going to be doing this thing.
Right.
If you don't have a strong head voice, you can't get through songs when you your show when you're only at 60%. So everybody gets the same workout. I have technique exercises that I will then do. Like when it's time to, let's learn, some people who come in, they only have a head voice. They really badly want to have a chest voice. I have technique exercises that are not part of the warm up that you use just to find placement and learn how to sing in your chest voice.
Okay.
You know what I mean? As far as, I'll be honest with this, weirdly, I do get a lot of rock singers, and I've had a few metal singers, and I just give them the same stuff. I say to them, you have to train like you're an Olympian. Because what happens is these guys who go on the road and scream, they come home and they sing clean. They get with their coaches and they sing in their little choir boy voices, and they build up the muscle until the next time they have to go out on the road and destroy it, you know? And there are teachers out there who specialize in teaching people how to scream. I am not one of them.
Right.
Because I was never good at, I was a rock chick coming up, but I was more of the Ann Wilson, Pat Benatar type.
Right.
Less the whole Courtney Love type. You know what I mean?
Probably for the best.
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't, and some of the girls out there, like Lizzie Hale is amazing.
Yes.
But it's very rare that I actually like listening to a girl scream, because it's so that we can't get that guttural thing going that guys can, it seems like. So I feel like it's just a lot of and it's just
Well, even
difficult.
with her, she has a really fantastic voice, and she has so much range, and she's been doing, especially in recent years, more of the screamy stuff, and I wish she would kind of scale back with that a little, because she's got a great voice.
Yeah. Her regular voice is just gorgeous. And,
Yeah.
and I always feel like that should be, and I say this to my students all the time. One of them, his name is Alan Macchiarolo, and he's in a band called the Toxhards, and they're ridiculous. They do a lot of antics, but the music is really, he's like, we take our music really seriously. We do not take ourselves really seriously. So it is a show, but they're great players. And he screams a lot in his shows. And I just have to keep checking in with them. And they just finished a tour, and I check in. I'm like, how's it holding up? How's it doing? You know? And he's like, it's fine. It's fine. And he promises me, I just listen to my students and say, does it hurt when you do it? Does it itch? Does it tickle? Does it, scratch? Does it? And they're like, no. I said, if it doesn't do any of those things, then I'm not going to yell at you. As long as I'm not seeing veins pop out, then, and you're flushing red, then I'll know they're not supporting it with their core. Because that's the thing, is like, if you're going to do that stuff, you have to, for years, like the only exercise I ever did was I did 25 sit-ups every night before I went to bed. Not anymore, but I did, for no matter how big I was. That was my thing, to keep my core strong for my breath control and to support singing rock songs all the time.
Yes.
You have to be physically strong to do it. And so I just do the muscle preparation with them, and then say, look, you have to know when your adrenaline will help you a little, but you have to know how to walk up to the edge and not step over it. And when you're first into this, like your first tour, your first big show, you're so excited. And that gives you false confidence.
Yeah.
And then you can blow your voice out and be hoarse the next day. So you always have to know, this is why I say you've got to be intimately connected with your vocal folds, because you have to know where that edge is for you.
Yeah.
How far up to the line you can walk up to without falling off the cliff, And I think a lot of these young kids in rock bands, they don't know that, because also a lot of them are getting signed off of being TikTok viral.
Yeah.
And they've never played live, and they didn't pay their dues in, bars and pubs and stuff, coming up and playing in that. They don't know. And they're breaking their voices before they even barely get started. And it makes me sad.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, there are even situations where I still will hurt my voice if I'm playing certain clubs or certain venues.
Oh, sure.
There's this place that I love playing it because the people there are so great, but the Doll Hut in Anaheim, we love playing there. And inevitably, every show I blow my voice, because it's just, you can't hear in there because of the way how the room is situated.
Gotcha.
But what are some things that you can do if you find that during a performance you've shredded your voice? What can you do in a situation like that? I know that's a really hard question.
It's in the moment thing. It's like, I've before been like, okay, overdid it a little. And so I'm looking at looking at the floor at the set list and going,
Can't
and
do
then
that
turn around
one.
to the guys going, number 7, go to number 7,
Yeah.
go to number 7. And sometimes you just have to do that. Or maybe let's do this first, give yourself, I always try to set up, that's the thing too. You also learn how to create a set list where you know how much voice you're going to have by the end. So you might put couple, 2, 3, songs in a row that are easy for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing too. I had this one student who came to me, he was a baritone. And over the course, he stuck with me for a long time too. I call him and Sarah, who I mentioned before, my blueprints, because they stayed with me a long time and they really buckled down and learned and were just determined to be the best singers they could be. And he has a lot of tenor notes now. He's still naturally a baritone. The richness of his voice is still in his, not quite super high range, but he can just fly around up there. And he got so excited about, his name is Mark, and his band name is called Mark and the Tiger. Mark Tiger.
Mark's great.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you've met
He's
him.
awesome.
Yeah. So he writes this beautiful album based on the Greek mythology that same thing that Hadestown is written about.
Oh.
I can't think of the
hell.
It's the very famous. Oh, whatever. He'd kill me. Anyway, just go look him up, Mark and the Tiger. And he got so excited about being able to sing tenor notes freely and easily that he goes and writes this whole album where he's just singing everything in his tenor range. And I'm like, dude. And then he starts doing live shows. And he's like, I'm so tired by the end. I'm like, because you wrote songs that are in your stratosphere the whole time. It's like, sometimes it's not uncommon. David Foster, the producer David Foster, was famous for making his female singers like Celine and Whitney and stuff sing in keys and record things in keys that they couldn't reproduce live.
Mm-hmm.
And if their voices weren't blown out by the end of the session, he felt like he didn't do his job.
Right.
Because he's basically he's a jerk. He's an admitted jerk. and so, but you can't do that. A lot of these rock bands too, when they go on tour, they drop their keys, partially because it fills the room better if it's a little lower, it gives you that thundering, in the chest, but also so they can freaking do it,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you got to know what your voice can do. You got to put your set list together so that you know when you're saving your voice and that maybe the crowd won't know when you're saving your voice, But it's interesting. I'm definitely very careful about things like that. I always have songs that are pulled back, quiet, that I can really lean into with stylistic choices to save up what I need for maybe a big 11 o'clock number. You know what I mean? At the end or something like that. But there are bands where I wonder, I'm like, they're just going hard the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming their sound engineers have a lot to do with how they get through the show.
Well, I had heard that Axl Rose with Guns N' Roses, that if he had like the hottest mic ever.
Really?
That he had a real, because, I mean, and that makes sense because, they would play, or they toured, I think, for 2 whole years in a row. So like if you were to go up close to his mic, you'd be like, feedback.
Well, same with the AC/DC guy whose name I don't know. Like if you ever see him live, he's practically shoving the mic down his throat.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's not screaming. He's just going,
Yeah, it doesn't sound like he is actually. I can hear that for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, be very fascinated to hear what his regular voice sounds like. Like if he's just doing the dishes and humming. What does that sound like from him?
Yeah, exactly. You just released a song fairly recently. It's a reimagining of the song The Rose. And what prompted you to record that song? And can you kind of tell us about the inspiration behind that?
Sure.
It's a little sordid.
Is it an inspiration though? It's actually taken my power back is what it is.
Good for you.
So there was a little movie called Napoleon Dynamite that came out 20 years ago this month.
Wow.
And through circumstances and stuff, I was hired to come in and sing the Rose in the film because for whatever reason, music licensing is very expensive.
Yes.
And sometimes these little indie films can't always, afford the songs that they want. So what happens when like they go to Sony and ask if they can use Bette Midler's The Rose, Sony either say, no, we don't want that in a comedy, or they'll quote a number that's way too extreme for them to afford. In those cases, they're like, well, we really want this song. And copyright law says once a song is released into the world, anybody can record it and nobody can tell you no, as long as you pay for the licensing fee.
Exactly.
So they're like, well, we know we can record the song. Let's just get somebody in here to do it because we have to have this song. So then they call people like me, I come in, I sing a, 1 minute clip of the song. There's no dialogue over it. It's during the scene called the Happy Hands Club where the kids are doing ASL along to the song. And it's probably incorrect ASL because it's this film. And it's just funny. They're doing it in front of their classmates.
Right.
I mean, nobody's talking over it. It's ridiculous. So I was really excited because that was supposed to be my Taft-Hartley into the union, which is your stepping stone in. When you get your Taft-Hartley paperwork, you have 30 days to do as much union work as you can possibly get. Easier said than done.
Yes.
Until they force you to cough up the $3,500 joining fee.
Right.
And then, whatever. So I was supposed to get my Taft-Hartley with that. Movie blows up. We didn't expect that. When I was hired, he's like, it's this goofy little teenage comedy. It's going to Sundance, probably not going to do anything. So I'm like, whatever. I made $100 that day to record it out of the music director, composer's own pocket, I think. Shout out to John Swihart. Anyway, there's so many details to this that I want to skip over, not to bore you. But so the film blows up, unbeknownst to any of us. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I'm going to go to the theater and see this film and watch my name roll in credits for the first time ever. And my sisters came with me, and I think we had a couple other friends too. And we watched the film. We enjoy the film. It's really funny and goofy. And then we're watching, and every other song that was licensed in the film said, song XYZ, written by so-and-so, publishing information.
Right.
Performed by so-and-so, except The Rose says, The Rose, written by Amanda McBroom, Warner Tamerlane Publishing. That's it. My name is not there.
Did they do that because there was something that they would have to pay on the back end or something for having your name credited?
Well, they would have to do it with every other band. They had Backstreet Boys on there. They had Jamiroquai on there.
That's right, yeah.
They had to pay for that stuff, residuals,
Right.
So it would make no sense for them to just do it, to not pay only me.
Did you sign a contract with them, or it was just kind of
Not
a bro
giving
deal?
away. It was I signed a contract on the day I sang it, agreeing to not get paid the full SAG day rate.
I see.
Because it was on a festival license.
Okay.
At the time, which I believe now they call it something different because it now includes web series and things like that. So it's a great contract that new filmmakers can use to get their foot in the door. And everybody agrees to get paid crap, to have this opportunity.
Yes.
And that kind of happens. All the actors got paid $1,000 a piece to do it.
In total?
Well, when the film blew up, this is a $40 million movie. No, what was it? I can't remember. It ended up grossing like $40+ million at the end of the day.
Right.
So when that happened, the producers cut them checks,
Okay.
bigger checks. But not me.
Yeah.
Because I know I've been in the music industry a hot minute, so I know how to read a contract and I know what to look for
Right.
to see how I'm going to get screwed over. And I know I did not sign away my right to credit or residuals. I
Right.
would not have done that.
Yeah.
I'd have gone right home and not done it if that was the deal. And so I believe, because after that time, trying to get an IMDb credit every time I put it up there, they would take it down. They're like, you have no proof that it's you. And they're like, you need to link to an article or a press release that shows it's you. So in looking for that, all the press and promo I found said, Bette Midler's The Rose. Referred to it like that was their loophole. They were writing her name without paying for it. And so, and then considering also every other musician was credited, plus every teenager that walked across the camera that day, their name is in the credits. So
yeah, what would it have taken just to... That's
It
all you
wasn't
wanted. It's
a
not like you
mistake.
were asking for royalties, even
Right.
residuals, because
Well,
it was
no.
a work. Or are you?
It was
Okay,
my
I see.
understanding that I should have made residuals
I
off
see.
that.
Okay.
And I was so excited because I was like, oh my God, this is great. The residuals I'll make off of Napoleon Dynamite will allow me to pay the SAG joining fee, because at the time it was just SAG. I can join the union, and then I will have all these other resources to help me become the steadily working studio singer that I moved here to be.
Right.
Having never made those residuals, I have been a SAG must join for 20 years.
Wow.
Like, because it's $3,500 and that just
Yeah.
doesn't fall out of the sky. Like, the only way I could do that is I'd have to book a national commercial
Right.
at this point. And these days, commercials are all doing buyouts and stuff now.
Yeah.
So, I'm just sitting around waiting. And I also found out, so a year later, John Swihart again calls me because everybody's career blows up except mine, right? He gets a job as the composer and musical director on How I Met Your Mother. He's doing very well for himself, and I'm glad because he's good people. And I know he called me no less than 3 times to make sure he had my crediting information correct to give to them. He's the one that filled out the Taft-Hartley paperwork and submitted it to the production company. He did everything he was supposed to do. So he calls me a year later and says, you've got your SAG card from Napoleon, right? Because I need you to come in and sing some backup if you are familiar, for Robin Sparkles on one of her songs. And I was like, no, I never did because they didn't credit me. And he was like, what? And he knew that they didn't credit me. And because I called him several times, like, he assured me I did what I was supposed to do. So he knew about that, but he didn't realize that I never got my SAG card because he had submitted the Taft-Hartley and assumed I'd done whatever I needed to do to get my SAG card. He goes, well, let me call them and find out what to do because if you don't have your SAG card, I don't think I can use you.
Oh, geez. I was going to ask if you couldn't do it because of that.
Well, here's the thing. He called and he found out that the production never submitted my Taft-Hartley.
Wow.
And we had filed a complaint with them about the crediting situation. I had
Right.
a lawyer to do that for me. So there was no record of my Taft-Hartley on board. So the fortunate thing with that is that I then could sing for How I Met Your Mother, and then he did the Taft-Hartley himself. So that paperwork is there. That's why I'm a must join. But the whole time I thought, I had the Taft-Hartley already. So
even the lawyer that you hired for this wasn't able to make any headway?
No. She's a friend of mine. I think I needed her, and no diss on her. She's amazing. She is now a judge.
Wow.
So she's done very well for herself too. But at the time I needed her to be a pit bull and I wasn't paying her,
I see, yeah.
So she was helping me out of graciousness, and just at some point was just like, we got to move on from this. You need to move on from this. Nothing's going to happen here. And so it just, I didn't have the resources that I needed to fight it,
And that's the story of so many freaking musicians. It's so disgusting.
That's the thing. This happens every day to people in this town, to people way more naive than me. I know what to look for. I know how to protect myself, and they still got me. So, very long story short, last year, 2023, I decided, okay, I'm going to go full throttle with the coaching. I've always done it on a part-time basis and done other things, and still sung, but really stopped trying to pursue music. I would do things if somebody asked me to and said, oh, I need a singer for this. Are you available? Yeah, sure. But I stopped really going for it. And over the years now, I didn't realize that's what I was doing. But I started in January of 2023. I started with a business program called the Thrive Academy. And they teach people, they're business coaches for people who in holistic industries, like life coaches, Reiki healers, shamans and things like that. And I bring a lot of my natural intuition, my natural woo-woo into my lessons with my students to read them and help them get to the core of why they're not being able to sing the way they want to. Because a lot of times it's head games,
Yeah.
I tell people great singing is 85% Jedi mind tricks. The rest is your technique and your talent.
Oh, absolutely.
Excuse me. So I thought that might be a better fit to help me expand my business than to do the biz bro kind of the money. Here's the big fat check. Here's my big house. Whatever. So I just liked that approach better. And so in one of the coaching sessions, there were group coaching sessions over Zoom every morning. And one of the co-founders, Jesse Corin, is the one who leads them 99% of the time. Every Wednesday was inner game day, dealing with your head stuff, and getting out of your own way mentally. So I ended up in the hot seat. There's like maybe 30, 50 other people all on Zoom. And so he picked somebody volunteers. I volunteered, and because nobody else was. I get in the hot seat. So you get personal coaching, but everybody's watching and learning along. And so he's talking to me about stuff and why are you doing this voice coaching thing? And I said, well, it was never the plan. So it took me this long to decide I'm going to expand my business, and I'm going to go full throttle. I'm going to be LA's best vocal coach. That's what's going to happen. And over the course of that conversation, I don't know even how it came up, but I mentioned the Napoleon Dynamite situation. Now, you got to know that whenever somebody mentioned it, brought it up, I would try to pivot. I couldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
It was so humiliating and embarrassing and just heartbreaking for me. It even hits me now.
Oh.
You're going to have to edit this out.
Oh, I am sorry.
It's okay. Because every once in a while, it's like, the pain never quite goes away.
Yeah.
For that, when you're in the moment, sorry.
No, you're fine. No, it's okay.
When you're watching your dream die right in front of you. Oh, what the heck? Because I knew it was happening as it was happening. And I don't think a lot of people get that gift, So I didn't talk about it. I wouldn't talk about it. If my friends brought it up, I'd be like, next, never watched the movie again, that kind of thing. And he said, wait. I know you've sung backup for Dolly Parton. You've sung Just See Woman. He starts bullet pointing my resume, which is amazing in the first place. Because there's couple 100, 300 people in the program altogether. And these people, him and his wife who own the company, make it a point to really know who they're working with. So I was like blown away by that. And then he goes, why is this the first time we're hearing about Napoleon Dynamite? And he's like the Barbara Walters of business coaches. He made me cry like this right here. And I said, I told him how painful it was for me and all that. And he said, okay, what can you do to take control of that situation now? And I said, well, nothing. I had a lawyer. We filed a complaint with SAG. But he's like, no. He's like, those are unwinnable games. He's like, you can't control what anybody else does, but you can control what you do. What can you do right now? And I was like, all right, let me percolate on that for a few days. And I did. And because I had realized in speaking to him, looking back, I started withering on the vine as an artist when that happened. I still put out another album, but it didn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything with it. I didn't know how. I didn't have the resources again. And so that just kind of did nothing. And then after that, I just started doing things here and there and teaching. But I look back now and I go, that's when I started to give up on myself. And but what can I, how can I heal from this? And then I realized every once in a blue moon, somebody would come out of the ether of the interwebs and be like, hey, I just found out that it's you singing The Rose, not Bette Midler. Did you guys record a full version of that? Because I'd love to have it. This was when MP3s and people still bought MP3s,
Right.
Spotify wasn't around yet, stealing our music, but I digress.
Yes.
And I would be like, no, but that's so nice of you. Thank you. Do you want to be on my mailing list? And thank you. Bye. And that would be the end of it. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to record a full version of this. I'm going to do that. And then I went, wait a minute. What year is this? When did this movie come out? I asked Professor Google, and I realized 2024 is the 20th anniversary. And I'm in March of 2023. And I'm like, that was just I get goosebumps talking about this now. The universe telling me, it's your time. You're supposed to do this, and we're going to hand it to you on a silver platter. We're going to give you this anniversary so that you can use that as a springboard to promote it and stuff like that. And so graciously, my boy Alan, my student Alan with the Talks Hard, who I mentioned earlier, he said, because it's a band full of millennials, and he goes, hey, let us play that for you. And I was like, what? He goes, let us record it. They do all their own recordings. They sound fantastic. He's like, we'd be honored because we think you're the poo, the shizzle. We think you're the shizzle because that's you. That like literally, they're like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. Your voice coach was Napoleon Dynamite. Oh my God. Like they grew up with that movie. So he's like, let us do this for you. And you don't even have to pay us.
That's amazing.
And they did amazing. Then my friend Levi Christ, who I went to college with, and we've written songs together for years and years. If I've had any kind of a career, it's from writing songs with him, really. And he agreed to arrange the song with me, to put my stamp on it. He played the piano parts gorgeously and just really made it. We put it together so that it's mine. And then the guys came and played on it, and we mixed and mastered it. And I'm just so proud of it. I think it's gorgeous. I went down a rabbit hole listening to other covers of it just to see what was out there. And I can 1052% say mine's the best.
Well, it is not an easy
the best
song.
One.
Not an easy song.
Yeah. And it can, a lot of people, there's a shtick to it. So I was like, how can I get the shtick out of here and make this seriously, even though it's in a comedy, very funny scene in the movie. But so anyway, it's the 20th anniversary recording, released in March, and it's out there, and I've been hopping around on different podcasts to talk about it, and hired a publicist. I crowdsourced. My people came, together for me to help me hire a publicist to help me get some information out, get the information out there, and so that's shout out to Sharp and Associates, Pam and Peter, working for me, and we're doing our best. And, it hasn't gone gangbusters, hasn't gone viral or anything, but in the process of the minute I made the decision to do that, like I literally felt like I lost 20 pounds. I have a friend who actually volunteered to make a real music video. We have like a lyric video. Another friend of mine volunteered to do that. I've paid for almost nothing to get this song out there. Wow. It's been amazing, just really amazing. And so another friend is like, I love music videos. I film stuff he does BMX stuff. He films that stuff. He's like, I've always wanted to do a music video because I think it's the most amazing art form, and I would love to do this for you. And, we have no money, so it'd be very simple, like me in front of a microphone, but I just haven't gotten around to doing it. And I really should at this point, be like, yeah, let's get on that music video. Because I feel like that might help a little bit. And I thought it would be fun to reach out to the public and be like, send us your clips of you doing that scene to the start of the song and give that to us. And I want to pepper it throughout, like fans of the movie redoing the scene and pepper that throughout
I think
it'd be fun.
This is such an amazing opportunity, especially since it is the 20th anniversary, to even share your story.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've done that yet on social media, but tell your side of the story.
Yeah, I've not sat down and done the whole thing. Partially being on podcasts, I've gotten to tell it a lot. But you're right. I probably need to sit down and do the TikTok and
Yeah, because you
tell
never
the whole
know.
story.
And
Yeah.
if nothing else, it's a cautionary tale. You know, people that are interested in having a career in entertainment. Or I don't want to say it's a cautionary tale. You know, you
It is,
made
though.
it a very very negative situation. You turned it into a positive. But these are the types of things that happen, like you said, every day to nice people, to good people.
Yeah. And that's so sad because I'm like, part of me loves this industry because miracles happen. You know, writing a song and getting it out there to the public is a course of miracles, little miracles happening. And sometimes it's amazing. And filmmaking, it's amazing to me how films ever get made because there's at any point, it's like a game of Jenga. You know,
there's so many working parts.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the same with, having a career in the music industry and knowing how to pivot and how to, people are getting really good at that. I've noticed people like, oh, my first album blew up. I better put a fragrance out because this isn't going to last forever. I better design my shoes and handbags. I better, my clothing line. Like they've figured out that you have to have, you could be a flash in the pan. You better have something else that's bringing you passive income. So, that's what studio singing was supposed to be for me.
Right.
I still every once in a while get a very small check for How I Met Your Mother.
Well, that's great. Well, you know what? That's great that you're even still getting that because everything is moving toward streaming.
Yeah.
At least network television, you're still getting something from that. I don't know how much longer that's going to last. I know. Which is really sad, but.
Well, that's the thing. Like, yeah. Oh, I could go on a tangent.
I know. I've done whole episodes on just that subject alone. But
the artist is the last to get paid.
Yes.
And they expect you. And then the whole Napster situation back in the 90s was because people thought music should be free. It's like, how do you think we get it to you? It costs money to get it to you in the first place. You don't get to steal it and say, it's mine. It's art. It's mine.
Yeah,
No.
like if a plumber comes to your house and fixes your toilet, you can't
you
just
gotta pay him.
Yeah. You'd be like, all right, well, then I'm going to take you to small claims, you know? Like, you can't do that for any other industry. But here, people seem to think in entertainment that it should be free.
And this little thing, this is another thing the business coach gave me, Jesse Corin, in trying to get people to understand the cred they bring to their line of work. He said to me in that same hot seat situation about my cred, he said, when did you start, studying music? How old were you? I said, well, I was about 10, I guess. I started playing violin first and a couple years later the piano. And then he goes, okay. And he said, did you go through college with it? I said, yeah. And he said, okay. So you have been studying your field of expertise longer than any doctor you've ever been to has studied theirs. And like, that was like a mind-blowing thing for me because I get flack from people sometimes, particularly parents of little kids who don't want to pay my rate. And they're like, oh, well, you're doing really well for yourself, aren't you? And I'm like,
what makes you think that that's the case? Where are you getting this?
I live in LA.
Right?
No, I'm broke all the time. But I'm like, when I say that now, I'm like, I've been studying my field of expertise since I was 10 years old. I should be charging way more than I charge now. Honestly, people need to understand that. I'm going on a tangent.
No,
now.
you're fine.
I'm preaching.
Yeah, preach, girl.
So, understand that with artists, art isn't free. And it costs us a lot of money to bring to you what we want to bring to you, the stuff that you need. When people say this whole anti-Hollywood thing, anti-celebrity thing that's going on right now, I've never needed anything from an actor or a musician in my life. Oh, really?
Yeah, really?
Next time you go to the grocery store, tell me what you're hearing over the loudspeaker.
Or even if it's not, if you're not into shows or movies, YouTubers.
Yeah.
You don't think that takes a lot of work to set up lights and
Those
cameras and
influencers,
editing?
that's their job 24/7.
Yeah.
And they're creative and I'm all for it. I'm like, so what if you're famous because you did it on YouTube? It's hard work to get yourself to go viral.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for YouTubers, actually. The ones that are successful even because it's like, how do you pull that off?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
And some of them are the single income source for their whole families. So like all this TikTok ban stuff, it really gets my makes me angry because some of these kids are putting the food on the table for their families and small businesses.
Well,
you know?
that's just I've noticed that over the course of just years that there's a lot of haters out there, especially when it comes to people finding any kind of success.
Yeah.
Because
Just because you don't have any talent and you didn't have the gumption and you couldn't make anything stick doesn't mean you
and they're
get
the
to be mean
same
to the people who did.
They're the same people that want stuff for free.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had this one guy who would come to, I haven't done free classes in a while because they cost money to rent a space.
Right.
And it started as a way to try to get students in the door. But then I've quickly found that there are people in this town who will jump from free lesson to free class to free workshop and they'll never invest in themselves. And I had this one guy who would reach out to me on occasion and go, "When's the next time you're doing a free class?" And I'm like,
that's gross.
it is gross.
Yeah.
And he had, his father was his manager, and the father thought the sun rose and set on him. It was a whole thing.
But, the thing is, if anyone ever questions what your rate is, just show them your freaking resume. You know what I'm saying? It's just you want to know why I charge this per hour.
Yeah.
Because of how many years I've spent doing this and all of the experience that I have.
Yeah. And I don't even have I have two websites. I have my darcimonet.com, which has all my singing stuff and acting stuff on it. And then I have my voice coaching, which is singlikeyoumeanit.com. And I actually don't have my resume on my voice coaching website. And I'm about to move it and rebuild it and change it over and stuff. And I'm like, I need to do that. I need to let people know this is why I charge what I charge, which is still the average, what your average LA coach that knows what they're doing charges,
right. But I just find that so offensive to when people ask for bro rates or whatever. If it's a friend or something, it's great. But they're like, oh, can I have a bro rate for this? It's well, are we close? How long we know each other?
I don't know if you get the friend of Darci discount.
Right. And it's just just think back to all of the years and the blood, sweat, and tears that you had to put into this.
Yeah.
That's why you charge what you charge.
For sure.
So I find it kind of offensive when people, ask
and it's always,
those
and man, I think it's even harder for women. Especially if I'm talking to the father of a child who's inquiring. I mean, they ask me questions that I know they wouldn't be asking a dude. Well, what do you charge that? What do they get for that rate? They get education. That,
right. I stopped for a second because I didn't even know how to answer that.
Yeah. I'm just they get what they want, a better voice,
right.
They get all my expertise, all my years of hands-on experience, including there's people who went to school just to teach music and there's nothing wrong with that. God bless them. That is God's work. But they leave college and they go directly into the classroom. What I believe separates me from a lot of coaches is that I have a resume where I was in the trenches doing the work, singing with celebrities. I have no proof because back in the day before cell phones, you didn't take pictures with the people you sang with.
Right.
You didn't, that was a no-no.
That was a major no-no.
Yeah. And so it's I have no proof that I actually did any of this stuff, that I actually ever had a career, except a piece of paper that says it because I wrote it on there. It's
right.
it's kind of weird, but it's I know I did it, and I know
that's all that matters.
How to teach somebody how to behave themselves in situations. I had this one kid who, one of my on and off students also owns his own music school, arts school, dance and everything out in Alhambra maybe, and he contracts studio sessions sometimes, and he reached out to me to see if I had any baritones. And so I sent him one, and I told this was this kid's first time doing anything like this. And I was like, okay, do you want to do this? It's in 2 days. It's last minute, blah, 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 which most session calls are. And he's like, yeah. So he says yes. I get him in touch with the guy. Then 24 hours before the session, he calls the guy and cancels. And I was like, what? And the guy called me. He was like, yeah, your student just canceled. And at 24 hours before. And so at his next lesson, I was like, what did you do? He goes, well, I gave him 24 hours. I was like, oh no, son, that's not how this works. No, you don't. Now, where's he going to get a baritone? He reached out to me in the first place because he was having a hard time getting baritone voices. So he reached out to his friends.
Because then he's screwing you over inadvertently.
I said, you just smeared my name with him. And I'll tell you what, that guy's never called me again for a recommendation. So that looked badly on me. I said, don't you dare say yes unless you know you can follow through.
Right.
And,
or get a replacement. I mean, not that even you want to do that.
If it's like an emergency or something, then for sure. People are going to be cool about, no, my wife's in the hospital having the baby. I can't come. That I did actually a Dolly Parton session. One of the guys came in, Chris Pierce, amazing monster vocalist and guitar player. He's played for everybody, is on this session. And he was his wife at the time was literally starting to have some contractions. And she's like, I think I've got some time, because they already had a kid. She's like, I got some time. Go ahead and do the session. Go ahead. I'll call you if I have to go in. So literally the whole session, we're just sitting there, and he keeps checking his flip phone.
Oh my God.
Days, to see if he had to go. She didn't end up going in for labor till later that night. So he stayed the whole session, but it was just kind of funny because it was just understood. It's like, we've got Chris Pierce and he might have to leave and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, but I'm sure it was a preemptive thing. He let everyone know.
Absolutely.
But that's the thing that I find, especially like kids these days, especially when they've come up through, say, TikTok.
Yeah.
They don't, they kind of lack, and this isn't necessarily their fault. That's the platform that's popular now, but they don't have that real life experience.
Yes.
They don't have that understanding. Like, you can't screw over your contacts. You can't. Yeah. I mean, they should have, I guess maybe School of Rock does this, but they almost need to have like a school to teach you these types of things.
Yes.
Almost like how they should teach, doctors, like say bedside manner. They should have classes for musicians, like as far as, what you do in these types of situations.
And I learned some of that in college, because a lot of the professors at Belmont, a lot of them are adjunct because they're working musicians.
Yeah.
So you're learning from working musicians, and you're learning the etiquette of how to maneuver the business and get called back repeatedly, and these kids, they don't get that. They're just, it's like, it's a baptism by fire. They're usually teenagers, and their video got 500,000 views, and now what? It's like they don't know what to do.
Right. And like, I don't want to sit here and flatter myself and call myself like the best vocalist in the world or anything like that. But what I am,
You're one of them, I would say.
Oh my gosh, thank you. That means a lot.
Of our generation, for sure, girl. You got
thank you.
Chops. Anyway,
thank you.
Back to you.
what I was going to say is I'm available, or if I say I'm going to be available, I'm available.
Yes.
And that's the thing. You don't always have to be the top of your class. You know what I'm saying? Or you don't have to be the best of the best, but you have to be available. You have to be reliable.
On time.
Yep.
Which means early. Like I was today.
You were very
planning
early
for parking, because I'm like, I better make sure I know where I'm going in town, and I'd be able to make sure I can find a place to park. But because that's the thing too in this town, that's literally a thing. Yeah. Like, if your call is 3:00, you better plan to be there by 2:30, because you have to find a parking space.
Yep.
Do not be late to your call because you couldn't find parking, because everybody has to deal with that here. So that's not an excuse.
It's not an excuse.
I was stuck on the 405. Don't care.
Yeah.
You should have left 20 minutes earlier.
Yeah. I mean, you always rule of thumb, like leave an hour before you have to be there, at least, even if it's right down the street.
Yes.
I do that.
I've done that I'm just sat in my car, or, I'll go get a little drink at this little cafe or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Are there any other like pearls of wisdom that you could impart to people who are trying to have a career in music?
Study your instrument. Take lessons. Seriously. Because there are so many people out there. I believe Carrie Underwood has famously said she refuses to have a voice coach because she thinks it's going to ruin her voice.
Who's above taking voice lessons?
Apparently Carrie. Because a lot of people have this idea that, I don't want to sound like an opera singer. They're going to ruin my voice. They're going to take away my sound. Like, not if you have a good coach.
Right. That's the thing. That's the thing.
A good coach is going to know how to peel back that onion to build up the basic foundation, and then help you learn to separate your sound from actual technique. your sound is the sprinkles, like I've said before.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and the thing is that's like anything. Like a bad coach can ruin your experience in literally anything. I had that happen to me. I was on the swim team from the time I was 6 to the time I was 14. I had a bad coach and I was out.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's fine. Like, swimming was never, I was good at it, but it wasn't like, what I wanted to do with my life. So it was fine. I wanted to kind of get out anyways. But, that's the thing. Maybe these people that have said those things have had poor vocal coaches.
That's happened too. Or they've had a lot of time. This is what I get the most of, I would say. People come into my studio and they have issues with their confidence. And in doing my woo-woo with them and my intuition and trying to read them, I'll be like, who told you you couldn't sing? Who told you you shouldn't sing? Every time. Some stupid elementary school teacher or the pastor or the choir director or their parent says something terrible to them. And when you're little, you believe it. I've had students who came in and started singing and they bust into tears because something happened in life. And we've had lessons where there's no singing going on. We just sit and we talk and we work it through and we, and that happens. My teachers did that for me. It is definitely part of the element of it. And I feel like I bring a little extra to the table because I'm highly intuitive and highly sensitive. So I can someone's energy the minute they step in the room, is I can feel that. And we can work, we work through things like that. But yeah, and your voice is it's so personal to everybody, because like I never responded to the drill sergeant types. I'm just like, no, you want me to dig my heels in? Talk to me with disrespect. That's the first thing that's going to happen. Right. So I don't approach people that way. I tell it like it is. I'm truthful, but I'm also funny, so I also lean into joking. And then I read the person. I have students who I can say, okay, do it again and try not to suck this time. And then we're laughing and they can handle it. But I have some students who would crush them. Yeah. So I don't go there, you know. It's really important to feel comfortable, as comfortable as you can, because some people with the confidence issues, they're still going to feel nerves, but you want them to feel like you are a soft place to fall for them, a safe space.
Right. And I would imagine you would have to tread very carefully with those types of people because you never know. You could, something that you say even could completely redirect them, in their journey.
Absolutely. And I do not want to be responsible for somebody quitting singing because, I said something that fell wrong. Yes. Because I know I would never say something to somebody just cruel,
Of course. But some people are very sensitive or they may, take it a different way. Yeah. Especially being from New York, like, or East Coast, because I'm East Coast. People sometimes misinterpret, especially like on the West Coast, we're a different breed. Yes. We kind of tell it like it is. We're not going to sugarcoat anything. Yeah. So I'm sure that comes into play sometimes.
Absolutely. And I just heard a saying the other day that is so true that I feel really connected to is that like New Yorkers, we are nice but not friendly. Southerners are friendly but not nice.
Yes.
And having lived in both places and now all the way out west here, I'm like, that tracks. It's like New Yorkers, we just cut to the chase, man. Just let's not waste my time. Right. Just say what you mean and mean what you say. Yeah. And I live by that. And I've worked very hard in my life to maintain that earthiness. I'm proud of it. I love it. I love that I'm not a flake. I'm not going to flake on you. If I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'm really going to be somewhere.
Right.
Otherwise, I'll say, I'll see what's on the schedule that day.
Exactly.
Let me see how my work goes. Let me see, I don't make a promise I can't keep. And, and I try to instill that in my students too. I'm like, your word is everything. If you want to work in this business, you have to follow through on your word. And that's going to get you hired 10 times faster than your talent level.
Oh, yeah. Abso-freaking-lutely.
Yeah.
Well, Darci, this has been so educational and awesome. I've learned so much from you about vocal coaching and some of these different things that you can do to improve your voice. And I've learned so much more about you, which is great because I mean I've known you for a while, but
Yeah.
you know it's just
We've
kinda,
never sat down and just talked.
No.
You know? So this is like the first time, really.
know,
and it's
totally.
been delightful. Thanks for letting me just ramble on.
Oh, hey, I welcome it. And
That's what I
actually,
do.
this is officially the longest I've gone on the podcast.
I was just
ding,
thinking,
ding, 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 ding. No,
I need to stop for a minute.
no, please
Yeah.
don't. This has been freaking fantastic, Darci.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And then real quickly before we go, where can everybody find you? Where can they follow you?
Okay, the easiest thing to do is to go to either of my two websites, darcimonet.com, that's Darci with an I, Monet like the artist, painter, or to my vocal coaching, singlikeyoumeenit.com.
All right. Well, Darci, thank you again. And
Thank you.
everybody back at home, please make sure to follow Darci.
Yes,
Make sure
please.
to like and subscribe to this podcast, and we'll see you next time.